I'm a guy who doesn't have a problem with people liking bad movies and shows, even if I personally don't like it. I mean, you can enjoy what you want to enjoy. I mean, that's fine. I mean, everyone has their own taste. As a recent example, I found myself enjoying the Minecraft movie. Even though I know objectively it's a bad movie, I still had a lot of fun with it. But there's some people out there, particularly in the media, who can't stand when some people don't like the things that they like. And whenever people say that they don't like something that they enjoy, they think that there must be some problem with those people, or there must be some grand conspiracy out there for people to try to hate on it because, well, maybe there's just a disconnect between what the media likes and then what audiences like. The Last of Us Season 2 review bombing isn't limited to Rotten Tomatoes. This is coming from Collider here. It's about time to revoke some people's internet privileges. Anybody who targets minorities and women online needs to check themselves anyway. Despite the efforts of certain platforms to prevent review bombing, trolls still seem to be getting away with it. Now, isn't this just a little bit ridiculous, saying that people who are review bombing shouldn't be allowed to use the internet, and basically saying that they're just a bunch of ists and phobes for having done such? The latest victim is HBO's The Last of Us, which, like the video game it is based on, had been targeted by individuals who seem to have a problem with women being spotlighted. Now, this is a funny thing that they're pointing out here, because if you recall, The Last of Us, I'm talking the first game in the series, was widely popular amongst gamers when it first came out. And if you actually played that game, you would know that female character Ellie was very prominent inside that game. In fact, she was actually the main focus on the cover of the game, but people still liked it. It wasn't until the second game came out that they're like, oh, people who don't like this just have a problem with women in powerful roles. It's like, that clearly wasn't the case when it came to the fan base of The Last of Us. Something must have changed between the first game and the second game that rubbed audiences the wrong way, which accounts for why that game received such pushback. And I'm thinking that we're seeing history repeat itself this time with the show. The second season of the show, which premiered less than a month ago, immediately started attracting negativity from a section of the audience. This was reflected in the fast declining audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. But trolls can't be contained to just one platform. They've also messed with the show's rating on Metacritic. So they're not even trying to make the argument like this is only happening in an isolated incident. It's like, no, apparently all reviews that are negative for the show must be the results of review bombing. It can't possibly be because audiences who checked out the show didn't like it compared to the first season. The Last of Us Season 2 holds a must-watch 81 out of 100 on aggregator platforms, but its user rating is languishing at 4.4. Now, this is talking about Metacritic. One glance at a user review reveals that most detractors seem to be repeating the issues they had with the source video game. The negativity is being targeted at stars Bella Ramsey and Caitlin Dever, while Pedro Pascal, whose character Joel, spoiler alert, was killed in the second episode, seems to be doing just fine. Now, I like how they're pointing out that it's receiving the exact same type of backlash as the game received. Could it possibly be that gamers who loved the first game didn't like what they were doing with the second game, and that's why they got backlash for the second game? And people who just picked up this series through the show liked the first season, and since the show is following the games, don't like the story that they're doing with the second season, and that's why it's having the same backlash. Does this person who wrote this article ever consider that maybe the story is what people were attracted to when it came to the game and the first season of this? And since they're doing story things that people didn't like with the games, and they're doing that with the show, maybe that's why it's getting criticism, not because people just want to hate on the second season and the second part of the story and just the second part of the story. Could it be that they really just don't like the direction that they're taking this, and that we're basically just seeing history repeat itself, but the people who are responsible for the game, who are also working on this show, are basically just doubling and tripling down on the mistakes that they made 5 years ago? After the release of the video game, it was actor Ashley Johnson who was singled out by trolls. Are you noticing a trend? Any film or show with even mildly progressive politics seems to irritate the sort of people who are likely to spend time venting about these things online. Actually, I recall everyone loved Ashley Johnson's portrayal in both the first and second game. No one really had any criticism with her. If there was any criticism, it was actually at the character of Abby, and it wasn't even at the actress who played her. It was just at the character herself, because people didn't like the fact that she killed off a fan favorite character, which was Joel, the head or the main character, or one of the main characters in the first game, a character that a lot of people identified with and a lot of people loved the character and sympathized with this story. They just killed him off in a brutal manner in the second game and tried to force the audience or to force the gamers to identify with his killer, and it just didn't work out. Not only did they do that in the games and it didn't work out for them, they're trying to do the exact same thing in the show, and we're getting the exact same results. But as far as Ashley Johnson, no, there really wasn't criticism levied at her for her portrayal in the role. In fact, I think it's kind of funny, this next sentence: any film or show with even mildly progressive politics seems to irritate the sort of people who are likely to spend time venting about these things online. The fact that they just immediately assumes this has to deal with political reason, I think kind of shows his hand a little bit. It indicates that that's where the author of this article, who is this anyway? Rahul Malhotra. Okay, I think that's how you pronounce it, whatever. Anyway, the fact that this is where this person is leading it kind of suggests that that's where their mindset is. That's why they're probably praising this show and why they take particular offense when people don't like it, because they think of it as an identitarian type of show. So people who are rejecting the show, in essence, are rejecting the identities which this person kind of ascribes to this show. But one thing about not only the game, but also the show, is that the politics that were present in the second game and in the second season of this were also present in the first, but yet those received a lot of praise for it. And I think the only reason why people don't like the second part of these entries is because people didn't like the direction the story was taking. Personally, as a fan of the first game and someone who didn't like the second game, as far as the series goes, I think the first season was okay, not as good as the first game. And the second season, I'll be honest, I haven't watched it because I'm not really that interested in watching this one, because I know where the game went and I know the show's doing the same thing, and it's just not a story that I'm interested in. My biggest gripe was that I think it undermined a lot of the themes of the first game, what they did with the second game. And the show is doing more of the same of that, and I'm just not interested in that. I know I'm not going to like it, so why subject myself to it? And I think there's a lot of other people out there who are more like-minded with me, where they enjoyed the first game and they didn't really enjoy the second game. And I think new audiences who came into this through the series are basically just repeating what we went through 5 years ago. Review bombing isn't an unusual phenomenon, especially in these divided times. Famously, the all-female Ghostbusters reboot was targeted so viciously by the self-appointed gatekeepers of the franchise that its box office performance was affected. In 2019, Rotten Tomatoes was forced to take measures to prevent review bombing when certain folks targeted Brie Larson for making political statements ahead of the release of Captain Marvel. I think it is kind of funny that they bring up Captain Marvel in this article here. Well, just going back to the Ghostbusters, I don't think any review bombing would have saved that movie. Or if there was review bombing, I mean, everyone understands that movie was trash. No one liked that movie, and that's why it failed. I mean, I don't think positive reviews would have saved it. But just kind of going over to Captain Marvel, it's like, yes, there was a lot of negative reviews for that movie, but one thing that they're talking about, what caused Rotten Tomatoes to change how they were doing things, is they had a feature on their website that said, are you interested in watching the movie? And there was like a yes or no. And it was overwhelmingly no, which to me, that's not review bombing. That's just using the feature of a site as the way the site intended for people to use it. It just so happened that it was overwhelmingly unpopular, and that's why it had a disproportionate amount of people saying no, they're not interested in watching the movie. Now, if you were to say that review bombing is people leaving a negative review for something that they didn't watch, okay, at least there's some argument to be had with that, because people are basically just misrepresenting their own personal take because they haven't watched it, so they can't really give it a fair review. But if you're just asking if people are interested in watching something and they're saying no, that was Rotten Tomatoes basically running to the defense of Marvel on that one, because people were voicing their opinions that they weren't interested in that. But it really didn't matter, and this is kind of like throws a wrench in their whole Ghostbuster argument, saying that the review bombing is why Ghostbusters failed. Because surprise, surprise, Captain Marvel actually did really well at the box office and made over $1 billion globally. Of course, that was helped by the fact that it was sandwiched between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And it was kind of pushed as you have to watch this in order to get ready for the next movie. So people watched it and it was highly successful. But of course, when you are asking Captain Marvel to kind of stand on her own or stand in a group with the Marvels, that was the worst performing movie in the entire MCU. So it just goes to show that a lot of the backlash towards Captain Marvel was genuine, but it was just helped out at the box office by the fact that it had good placement within the MCU release schedule. But still, like I said, it undermines their entire argument when they say negative reviews will cause a movie to fail, because they just immediately pointed out a movie that succeeded despite what they're claiming to be review bombing. And it also mentions Little Mermaid, Snow White remakes were all so unfairly targeted by trolls who clenched their fists against the perceived progressive politics of these movies. In The Last of Us, detractors seem to be furious at Joel's death at the hands of Abby Deaver's character. Yeah, people don't like what they were doing with the story, and that's why they rejected the game, and that's why they're rejecting the show. There's nothing really conspiratorial about it. Only thing that's conspiratorial about this, if you're going to say anything, is that the media is running to the defense of it. But I'm not even going to put on my tinfoil hat for this one, because it's not even a conspiracy. It's just an outright fact. At this point, we've seen time and time again, many media outlets will run to the defense of any movie or show if there's the perception of progressive politics in it, and they even don't really try to hide that fact. That's their whole motive behind it. But when it comes to the fans, they're just looking at whether something is good entertainment or not. And it just so happens when shows or movies try to push those type of agendas, that the entertainment value is usually lacking, and that's why people don't like it. That's not always the case. There's other movies or shows that push some type of agenda or have some type of messaging that audiences like. Right now in theaters, Sinners is doing really well, and that's a movie that has some type of an agenda in it, but people don't care because it's well executed and the movie is entertainment, or at least for the people who saw it, that's what they think about it. So I think a lot of this argument just kind of falls flat as soon as you start examining it. But you know, journalists are going to journalism, or I guess so. This is to be expected, but let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think that the only reason The Last of Us Season 2 is getting negative reviews is because people have to be review bombing it? Or do you think it's just simply because people don't like the direction they're taking the show and they're just voicing their opinion on sites that allow them to voice their opinions? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.